Thank you very much, Carlos, for your kind introduction. Indeed, it's against this backdrop of a crisis in Ukraine, in Gaza, and there are possible ramifications for all kinds of crises. Against overall background of this kind of chaos, we see BRI and its implications. I was back from Beijing for this 10-year anniversary summit. And indeed, I was impressed. I listened to so many speeches which try to highlight this aspect. In this chaotic world, we have this particular initiative, and it represents, that is, certainty, peace, and development. And today I'll share with you my own thoughts on this huge undertaking BRI, and I try to make three major comments. The first is on China's rise per se. As you know, China now is actually the world's largest economy in terms of purchasing power parity. That was the case since 2014. And this is the first time a socialist country has become the world's largest economy. And with the world's largest middle class, with the world's largest consumer market, and become the world's largest trading nation. And so this is really meaningful for China itself, for the global South, and for the reform of the existing international order. And I try to, as many people agree, to divide China into two stages of development. First is what we call the first 3 decades since 1949. China, under the leadership of Chairman Mao, laid the foundation for China's dramatic rise. I call this a political foundation, economic foundation, social foundation. Political foundation is mainly the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party and a range of institutional arrangements from Chinese People's Congress to the United Front to Political Consultative Conference. All these proved to be so essential for China's success. And economic foundation means really China started with a very primitive economic base, now to a far more sophisticated economic structure. But that foundation was laid back, in the first 3 decades, especially comprehensive set of industries across the country. And these are important for China's success later on. For social foundation, I refer to the women liberation, and to literacy movement, to basic healthcare system. All these were laid out and built up in the first 3 decades. And then roughly from 1978, when China entered this new year of reform and opening up, what we see is economic takeoff. I try to use another expression. I call China has successfully managed its rise in terms of industrial revolutions. China has achieved 4 industrial revolutions in one. This is remarkable. In other words, roughly with the speed of every decade, every 10 years, China has gone through 1 industrial revolution. The first one focusing on trade and production of textiles and small and rural enterprises. And that was achieved roughly by the year 1995. Then the second industrial revolution, focusing on power industry, manufacturing industry. Again, within 10 years, by 2010, China became the world's largest producer of energy, power, electricity, and then other manufactured goods. And then third industrial revolution, that's the telecommunications. And then China now is in the first, how should I say, in the frontier of the fourth industrial revolution, in big data, AI, and quantum technology, and certainly renewable energies. So this is amazing for China's achievement. And that's my first point concerning the overall rise of China. Now, my second point concerning the implication of this kind of rise or 4 industrial revolutions in one, which means China is arguably the only country, at least large socialist country, that has successfully broken away from the what we all call the unjust international order, what's called the peripheral central world order. And China has broken away from this dependency on the West. And with these 4 industrial revolutions in one, China itself has become a center. It is simultaneously largest partner with the peripheral country, developing countries, and with the Western country, the central countries, in terms of trade, investment, technology, and other aspects of the economy. So this itself is fascinating in many ways. Back in 2018, when the United States imposed trade war on China, imposed tech war on China, I myself and my institute were the first among the very few in China to say the United States is going to lose trade war with China. It's going to lose the tech war with China. Now 5 years have elapsed. You can see very clearly the United States has lost trade war. As we can see with all the statistics over the past 5 years, 90 to 95% of the increased tariff were paid by the US companies and customers. So the United States now has inflation. And for tech war as well, we see the Huawei's Mate 60. It's a breakthrough, which also means the United States lost the tech war. And so this has tremendous implications for the BRI. So when that comes to my third point, the BRI itself, I try to highlight my thoughts from the 2 angles. First is hard power for BRI, and then soft power for BRI. In terms of hard power, China is indeed the only country now capable of providing goods, services, experiences from all the 4 industrial revolutions to global south, to countries participating in the BRI. No other country can do that. For one thing, why United States lost trade war? Because we calculated, yes, Sun-US trade will suffer. It suffered in first 1 and 2 years. But China trade with Africa, with Europe, with ASEAN increased, often in double-digit growth. So no problem, no. So China's overall trade situation is better than before. And then if you look at with these 4 industrial revolutions in one, China is the only country that is capable of providing what I call total solution to industrialization for many developing countries. For instance, China has built 6,000 kilometers railway, and then same length of highway for African countries. And China has built within 2 years, the whole complete petrochemical industry facilities for countries like Chad, like Uzbekistan, etc. So this kind of total solution is very important. So it's not only traditional infrastructure, but also digital infrastructure, green infrastructure. China can do all that. This is remarkable. That changed global outlook and also prospect of developing countries. And furthermore, China is also, in terms of soft power for the BRI, The most famous principle is 共商共建共享, which literally should be translated into discussing together, building together, and benefiting together. I think this is a better translation than other translations. And it's rhymed well with Chinese. And these ideas are from Chinese industrialization and modernization, and also from the Chinese civilization, and they are very socialist in one way or another. Discussing together is from what we call consultative democracy, which was extensively used in China's rise. I said in both high politics, in low politics. In high politics, China produced 5-year plan, one after another, through hundreds of rounds of consultations within the party, outside the party, within think tanks, outside think tanks, and with the society. So each 5-year plan is the output of sophisticated, institutionalized consultations with all parties concerned. For instance, now China is the leader in renewable energies, in electric cars, but this is the result of four consecutive 5-year plans with all kinds of minor readjustments in the process. Otherwise, it's inconceivable. So this is, I call, consultative democracy in high politics. Then in politics, in Chinese culture, we have this consultative culture. Many of you have been to China many times, and many of you use WeChat. The Chinese have experienced this WeChat revolution. It's actually the Chinese way of freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. Indeed, you can form a group immediately. You can form 3 groups, 5 groups, any time, within one day or within half a day. Far less concerned about what people in the West would call privacy. I said we are more open-minded in many ways because there are many things we should discuss in daily life, in business, in office work, etc. So in both in high politics and in low politics. So in BRI, we say discussing together with all the parties, including business parties, political personalities, even among people, different political parties within that particular participating country. And building together is also a reflection of Chinese, what we call the down-to-earth, pragmatic spirit. I was in South Africa a few months ago during this summit, the BRIC summit, and I was told that in Africa, people have a description for Western projects. It's called the NATO, no action and talk only. So China is just opposite. We reach consensus and then immediately it's put into operation. And we emphasize efficiency. You have to be completed against whatever the schedules worked out. Kind of down-to-earth pragmatism and can-do spirit. And for the benefiting together as well, you know, I always say BRI is not a charity. Yes, China provides aid project to many developing countries. This is true. But for such an undertaking to be able to last and continue to work, it has to be commercially viable. From our calculation up to now, 80% of Chinese enterprises are private enterprises working in the BRI initiative. State-owned enterprises play their role, private ones play their role, and the 2 roles complementary. They are not always perfect, ideal, as with any situation, any country. There are problems, this or that. But overwhelmingly speaking, largely they are more successful than other projects. So benefiting together is indeed true. So in summary, with this kind of 4 industrial revolutions in one, and with this hard power and soft power of the BRI, I think now Global South, including all the participating countries of BRI, over 150 now, we can really promote in a meaningful way the reform of the existing unjust unipolar world order. into something far more multipolar and far more beneficial for the vast majorities of the world's populations. Okay, thank you very much.